Going to go ahead and try to get started. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening. This is a great turnout, so we appreciate everybody's interest in the electoral process and for coming this evening. The League of Women Voters provides nonpartisan voter education, studies topics like education and the environment in order to advocate on these issues. And we also do a lot of voter education about candidates, like these candidate forums, and producing our voter guide, which hopefully most of you received last week. We also welcome new members. Men as well as women are welcome to be members of the League of Women Voters, and you'll find membership forms on the table outside. You can also visit our website, lwvlosalamos.org. On the table outside, you can also find sample ballots as well as bookmarks listing where and when you can vote and campaign materials from the candidates. There are also additional copies of our just published voter guide, which again, hopefully most of you received. I'd like to do a few thank yous. First of all, a big thank you to UNMLA for hosting this event. This is the third time this year we've used this venue, and we really appreciate them hosting our forums. I'd like to, just a quick reminder, cell phones off. I think I got mine off already. I'd also like to remind folks that we do have sponsors that support these events and help us put on these events for the voters. And those include the American Association of University Women, the Dell Foundation, Hartway and Brashears CPA, Los Alamos National Bank, and TRK Management. We'd also like to mention that AAU is funding the videotaping of this forum by PAC-8 so that it can be viewed on YouTube or a DVD that will be available at Mesa Public Library. So you'll have a chance to review that. I'd also like to welcome our 3 volunteer assistants from the Hill Talkers, the high school speech and debate team. We have Andy Shen, Donald Poston, and Shruti Garamella. So please thank them for helping us out this evening. We're going to start with the candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives, and we are going to all of our speakers will go in ballot order. I'd like to run through the sort of protocols. After the U.S. House of Representatives, we'll have the Los Alamos County Council candidates, and then the Los Alamos County Clerk candidates. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an introductory statement, followed by time for questions and answers, after which the candidates will be given 1 minute for a closing statement. During the question and answer periods, we will take questions from the floor. You will have 1 minute to pose one and only one question. If you have a second question, please raise your hand again. The questions must be addressed to all of the candidates in the group that are up here at that time. And we ask you to refrain from making statements or comments or offering opinions. We're looking for your questions for the candidates. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question that is posed. We also ask that the candidates be sure to address the audience, not each other, and refrain from any personal attacks. We're here to discuss the issues. So to summarize, a 3-minute opening statement, questions 1 minute for the audience to pose a question, answers 1.5 minutes, and then a closing statement of 1 minute. Our timekeepers over here, right up here in front, will hold up warning flags to let the speakers know when they are nearing the end of their time and when they are out of time. Oh, we also, one of the students has a microphone since we are videotaping. If you have a question, if you could, when I call on you, if you could stand up and then pause for just a few seconds to allow the student to get the microphone to you. We would very much appreciate that for the videotape audience. So now I'd like to welcome the candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives. And we have Michael H. Romero from the Republican Party and Ben Ray Lujan from the Democratic Party. And we're going to, as I mentioned, we're going in ballot order, so we will start with Mr. Romero's opening statement.
Thank you for making time, coming out to meet with us and ask us questions, which is very important. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for setting this up and sponsoring it. My name is Michael Romero. I am from Vadito, New Mexico. I was born in Embudo back in 1960. It's not too far back. I was raised in Vadito, went to high school in Peñasco. My junior year, our family moved to Grants, New Mexico, where I met my lovely wife of 39 years. We have 2 children, Christopher and Annika, and 3 grandchildren, Grayson, Mila, and Brindley. Right out of high school, me and my wife went into the Air Force. I served 4 years. I was a weapons loader. I used to load bombs on B-52s and F-111s. The bombs you have in your museum here in Los Alamos, I used to load them on the aircraft. So I'm very familiar with them. After 4 years of serving our country, we moved back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was in the National Guard for 2 years, could make a living there, moved north, back home to San Cristobal, and worked in the Cuesta mines for a year. After a year of that, I was laid off, and the local sheriff there saw something in me and offered me a job as a deputy. I became a deputy, never imagined I would in my wildest dreams, and I was good at it. The money and opportunity in northern New Mexico wasn't the greatest as it isn't now, and we moved west to Las Vegas, Nevada, and I was a police officer there for 22 and a half years. At age 50, I've always been longing to come home. The roots have always been tugging and pulling, and Vadito is my home. So we moved back home, family, and even brought they're in the audience now, two of my grandchildren and my son-in-law. They also followed us back to New Mexico. They live in Rio Rancho. So they're very close. We're always visiting, and especially now with all this traveling to the 3rd District, I've put in a lot of miles, and I've probably visited every town 5 or 6 times. And again, I never imagined I would serve again or be called to and run for U.S. House of Representatives. Who'd ever thought of an individual from Vadito, New Mexico? The United States of America provides that for all of us to be the best we can as long as we make the effort. Because when the government comes in and hands it to you, it keeps you there. We need to stop doing that and the temptation of taking it and go forward and make our own way. And we've done it. We've proved it. My son-in-law, he's a dentist in Rio Rancho. He's an immigrant from Mexico. He did it the right way. We need to follow the law. And me, myself, law enforcement officer, I lived it 24/7. And with that, I'll end my statement, and thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Ben Ray Lujan. It's an honor to serve you, the people of New Mexico, as your United States representative in the 3rd Congressional District. Before I begin tonight, I just want to acknowledge some family that are here with us tonight. Some of you may have recognized my mom who came in. My mom, Carmen, is with us this evening. She drove up with me. My sisters, Jackie and Shirley, are both here. So Jackie, I'm glad that you could leave the lab early enough to make it by tonight. So thanks for being with us. My brother-in-law, Marvin, is here with us. My girlfriend, Dawn, is here with us. My uncle, Rosendo, my auntie, Mary Lou, my auntie, Lucy, my uncle, Robert, my cousin, Debbie, my cousin, Tommy, and several others that I'm sure that I left out. So I apologize for that. We do. We need every one of them. It's a great honor to travel thousands of miles across New Mexico to get a chance to meet hardworking people who love New Mexico, care about our communities, and want the best for our families. I grew up on a small farm just down the mountain in Nambe, New Mexico, where I learned the value of hard work from my parents and grandparents, including mowing the lawn, right, Mom? It's those values and roots that drive me every day, not only to fight for New Mexico, to fight for people, to stand up for our great state, but to make a difference, to never forget where I come from. When I travel across the state of New Mexico, I'm really humbled because families and people take time to share personal stories and struggles with me. But in the face of those struggles, some have suggested that Social Security and Medicare and the VA should be privatized, that Pell Grants and pre-K programs should be cut or eliminated, all while protecting tax breaks for billionaires. Those are not New Mexico values. Those aren't the values that I grew up learning. We have to fight to protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare, not privatize it. Make sure students have access to Pell Grants and pre-K programs, and ensure that our veterans get the benefits that they've earned and that they deserve. That's what this is all about, and that's what we have to get done together. Those are the New Mexico values that I was born and raised with, but it doesn't stop there. As we look at making sure that there's more economic opportunity across our great state, namely in the northern part of the state, we have to continue to diversify our economy, but we have to strengthen what we have here as well. Continue to encourage investments in Los Alamos National Laboratories, bring the dollars home necessary to be able to clean up what needs to be cleaned up, that's putting people to work and creating more opportunities across our great state. There's more that we can do. We can work to build a stronger middle class, create opportunities. And when we do that, we're going to create a brighter future for everyone so that families can get ahead and stay ahead. I humbly ask for your vote. I want to encourage you to make sure you're reaching out to your family and friends. We need everybody voting to get ahead this cycle, to make sure that our voices are going to be heard, that we're going to overturn Citizens United, do it together, and make sure we protect our democracy. Thank you for being here tonight, and to the League of Women Voters, thanks for having us tonight.
All right, thank you. I'd like to now open the floor for some questions. We have one right back there, the gentleman in the green vest.
Yes, Mr. Romero, Congressman Wilhelm. Given that New Mexico has more insulation than any other state except for perhaps Arizona and Southern California, meaning sunshine, and that in the spring we get to see Arizona come by in the morning and Texas come by in the evening, do you believe that wind and solar energy are viable ways to produce energy in the future of New Mexico? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Romero, do you?
I'll go first?
Yes, please.
My simple answer to that is the technology is not there yet, still being developed. As an example, when our current president took office, there was over 430 companies that were vying for grants and money from the federal government. There's only 30 or 40 left. They've all gone, Solyndra is one of them, billions of dollars, tax dollars wasted. So till we get the private industry to actually make a go of it, it's not gonna work. I mean, when Ford was established, they didn't have a grant from the federal government. They made it on their own. They came out with the Model T. They developed a system where they could get everybody to own one. So till that day occurs with solar and wind, and I give you lots of examples of failed systems that have been established and set up and run, but that would be my simple answer. We're not there yet. We still have to rely on fossil fuels, and we don't have a choice.
Thank you. Representative Lujan?
Thank you for the question. Look, the solar and wind industry in the state of New Mexico has created thousands of jobs. It has a positive impact of over $1.8 billion on New Mexico's economy. It's an important way to diversify our economy in New Mexico and to be able to export something else out of New Mexico, namely electrons that are generated from wind and from the sun. The important advanced research is taking place right here in Los Alamos, at Los Alamos National Labs, that has continued to make great strides in increasing the efficiencies of solar cells. Is something else that we should thank our physicists and scientists and engineers and the entire teams that are helping us make fuel cells more dependable and efficient right out of Los Alamos. And the battery storage technology that's also taking place here. We need to do more of this. We need to continue to build our capacity in New Mexico with solar and wind, and we're seeing that this is working. It's a positive thing for New Mexico. It's a positive for our economic opportunities, and it's just the right thing to do.
All right, thank you. Do we have another question? Yes, back there in the back.
I have a company, it's currently in Los Alamos. We figured out how brains work, neuron by neuron and synapse by synapse, and we know how to build them, and we're building them, and we got so many orders, it's just scary. We can't figure out how to say in Los Alamos, how to stay in the 3rd district. There's just too many pieces that don't work, and my question is more political than about us, which is, if you're our congressman, and you have a vote, and there's a vote that supports your party, there's a vote that supports the national lab, there's a vote that supports, say, us bringing jobs to the district, how do you vote?
Representative Lujan?
Thank you for that important question. Look, Los Alamos National Labs, Sandia National Labs are both two critical components of New Mexico's economy. But as I often describe the labs to colleagues or other people around the country, anytime that you see a major event happening in the world, if there's something bad happening, there's experts from Los Alamos trying to figure out what was happening there. If there's something positive that's happened, rest assured that there was strategy that was led by a team right here from Los Alamos as well. We have to continue to put Los Alamos at the forefront when it comes to not only advocating for plus up in the accounts for cleanup, to be able to expand the opportunities to transfer those lands back to the county, and so we can have more economic opportunity, to continue to make investments to expand the mission at Los Alamos. I actually authored a piece of legislation that was included in the National Defense Authorization Act to expand the mission here at Los Alamos National Laboratories and to continue to make investments here. So we have to be able to vote, to be able to increase capacity here at Los Alamos National Laboratories and make sure that it's not just that, but that everyone across the country understands that Los Alamos National Labs is an untapped resource when it comes to strengthening the economy across the country through tech transfer opportunities, which is why I also support CRADAs, Cooperative Research and Development Agreements, and legislation that I've authored has actually been signed into law.
Thank you. Mr. Romero?
It's a lot simpler than that. Why does Texas, Arizona, and Colorado have such a low unemployment rate compared when it comes to New Mexico? Well, companies want to go there. The main reason is their right to work states. Second, they give incentives that New Mexico refuses to. And then the school systems, in turn, we need to bring back control of our school systems to the state of New Mexico. The federal government mandates from the top, and they put a size 11 shoe out there that's supposed to fit everyone. Washington, D.C. doesn't know what northern New Mexico's need, what they want, because they've lost touch. Yesterday, my mother was at a doctor's office with my dad up here in Los Alamos. An elderly gentleman came out and said, you know, Congress wants to take away the right of us to go up into the Forest Service and gather wood. They're making more and more wilderness, and they're shutting down roads more and more. So, you know, that needs to stop. And in turn, we need to make it safer for people to live here, and that's police. We need to make it to where they get paid the best, that we attract the best, and in turn we make safer communities, and companies would gladly come here. They don't have to worry about getting robbed and or etc. So it's a lot simpler than that. Los Alamos Labs, yes, it has a perfect fit where it's at, and we need to expand it.
All right, thank you. Another question? Up here in front.
The Affordable Care Act is great as far as evening out the pool for people who have pre-existing conditions. However, many of the small business owners in Los Alamos have found themselves unable to provide themselves with insurance or their employees with insurance because of the costs that are involved. And one of the things that the Affordable Care Act did was make it illegal for associations such as the Chamber of Commerce to offer association insurance. You can have group insurance where there's a W-2 relationship involved, but you can't have that association insurance that used to reduce a pool of costs. Can the Affordable Care Act be changed at all, or what could you do?
Okay, Mr. Romero?
The Affordable Care Act is a mess. It's failing on its own. I believe there's only one provider still complying with it. I feel it's already collapsed as the federal government refuses to tell us. I personally retired from Las Vegas Metro at age 50. That was over 5 years ago. I'll be 56 now. When we retired, it was costing me and my wife $630. Within 2 years, it was up to $1,300. That's a house payment. It's only supposed to be insurance in case we need it. Insurance came about because private industry needed to attract good employees. The federal government turned it into a right. How does that come about? We need to go back to where medical insurance is handled like auto insurances. Right now, you're stuck with New Mexico. You can't go to Maine, you can't go to Florida to buy a better insurance if it's possible. We need competition. Government doesn't provide that. It's a closed loop. It's a monopoly. So we need to get the federal government out of that also. They have their fingers and tendrils to everything. We need to go back to simplicity and back to basics.
Representative Lujan?
Thank you for the question on the Affordable Care Act. I would agree that, everything that the Affordable Care Act has accomplished associated with eliminating pre-existing conditions, eliminating lifetime caps. Women don't have to pay as much, or more, I should say, more for their health insurance than men any longer. Children can stay on their parents' plans until they're 26. Positive reforms that were associated. 20 million more people across the country that were insured as a result of this, that aren't forced to go to the emergency room or have to do without care. As it pertains to small businesses, the Affordable Care Act also stated that if you have 49 or fewer full-time employees, that you're not required to provide that coverage. But there were some tax incentives that were included for small employers, small businesses to provide benefits to their employees. One of which said that if you have fewer than 25 full-time employees making an average salary of $50,000 or less, that there was a tax credit to incentivize a small business to provide coverage to their employees. I've been part of a group that have advocated to increase that to 50 or fewer employees to provide that tax incentive as well. I'm also open to the idea of pooling, that there are improvements that can be made, like considering treating pooling like you would treating group plans. That's something positive that we can chat more about. And also, the notion that states that you as a citizen here in New Mexico can't buy insurance from an insurance company that doesn't reside in New Mexico is not true. The Affordable Care Act provided a program where states can enter into compacts so that we can purchase coverage there as well. But let's make sure we chat more about that. Repealing it is not the answer.
Great, thank you. We have time for one more question right here.
On that same,
Yeah.
Andrea Denman, on that same vein, do you believe the VA should be privatized, and why?
Representative Lujan?
No, the simple answer is no, the VA should not be privatized or abolished. This is an area where there's a disagreement between myself and my opponent. There was a letter that was written to Dr. Ben Carson from America's leading veteran organizations. As we remember, Dr. Ben Carson advocated for the privatization and the abolishment of the VA. What these leaders wrote, and the leaders were executive directors from the Veterans of Foreign War, the American Legion, the Order of the Purple Heart, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, AMVETS, and the Military Officers Association. They said, quote, eliminating the VA healthcare system, considering all that it has done in the past and all that it could be in the future, would inevitably endanger the health and well-being of millions of wounded, injured, or ill veterans, an outcome that we cannot allow to occur. Now, I don't want to ever question that my opponent or anyone else has our veterans' health in their, as a priority. I don't ever want to question that. But privatizing the VA and abolishing the VA, not just my opinion, but the opinion of experts and veteran organizations across the country, would be detrimental to the commitment that the United States has to keep to care for him who shall have borne the battle. And that's why it's important that we continue to strengthen the VA, hold them accountable, and that's why I've supported initiatives to hold staff accountable that have hurt our veterans.
Thank you. Mr. Romero,
Our government doesn't hold the VA accountable. I'm 56 years old. As far back as I can remember, I'm a vet. They always told me it's better for you to go to a private doctor than to go to the VA. That's when I was in the Air Force. That's over 40 years ago. We're still having the same problem. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. So why do we keep going back to that well? It needs to be changed. We need drastic change. Just because it's an established, that's the problem with government. We're still paying taxes for the Spanish-American War. Did you know that, folks? We fought that war how long ago? And we're still paying it. They don't give up. They don't let go. So we need to change it. We need to start thinking outside the box. As an example, in Roy, New Mexico, I've driven through there 4 or 5 times in the last year. I ran into an individual, his name is Frank Romero. Romero's are everywhere up north. And he's 82 years old. He's a Korean War vet, got shot twice, earned the Silver Star for his service. Last year, he applied and got an appointment in Denver, the VA. He showed up with a slip of paper that he got mailed to with the appointment date and time. They told him, sir, we're sorry, but your appointment's a year out. He's 82 years old. Can he wait that long? VA's broke, folks. And if we keep ignoring it and they keep giving them more money and thinking it's going to fix the problem, it's not.
Okay, Mr. Romero, you now have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Thank you for showing up and listening to us. This is what you're going to get. This is who I am. It will never change. I speak the plain truth. The government's gotten out of control. We're $20 trillion in debt. If we don't fix the problem, it's going to fix itself. And you intelligent folks out there know. You can only spend so much. I saw a chart the other day where if you take 6 digits off the end of the billions and trillions of money we owe and borrow and spend, we would be allowed to do. We'd be put in prison for doing that at home. So why should we allow our government? With that, again, just go back to simple. We've complicated the heck out of everything, and we refuse to fix it. I would appreciate your vote come, well, we already started early voting, so November 8th is the day. We're almost there. Thank you for your attention, and thank you.
Okay, Representative Lujan, 1 minute for a closing statement.
Well, again, to everyone who came in to get a chance to listen to us a little bit this evening, to ask some important questions, I clearly know that everyone's here for the forum that's going to take place with the County Council, but we appreciate you letting us be the warm-up act for the conversation that will be taking place tonight. Look, it's been an honor to serve you, to continue to learn and grow, reach out and learn from New Mexico's constituents, New Mexico's people. I want to encourage you to tune in and watch a forum, a debate that was recorded yesterday. It's actually airing tonight, now at 7 o'clock. There's going to be a link on the PBS website. There's more questions that were asked there that provide a clear contrast between myself and my opponent. I really want you to get a chance to listen about that. We want to welcome people from all over the world to New Mexico to be able to help us build on what's best, to bring added value to families that have been here for generations like mine or people that have just moved here weeks ago. We're all in this together. There's more that we can do, but I especially want to thank you for getting involved this election cycle. Let's make sure and get out and vote, and we can defeat all of the hate and bigotry that's going to be coming from Donald Trump as well. Let's get this done together. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to our District 3 U.S. House of Representative candidates. We're now going to have the Los Alamos County Council candidates come forward. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with the County Council candidates. I'd like to remind the audience to not applaud until we're thanking all the candidates at the end. That'll help us save time and keep us on track. Again, we're going to go in ballot order, and we're going to give each candidate a chance to make a 3-minute opening statement. We're going to start with Patrick Brenner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Brenner, and I am your candidate for Los Alamos County Council. So first, my favorite color is pink. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to the easy stuff. So I graduated from Los Alamos High School in 2010. I went to the University of New Mexico in Los Alamos, right up here. I got a great start to my education. I furthered that education at the University of New Mexico main campus in Albuquerque, where I met my wife. Hi, wife. We now have 2 absolutely adorable daughters that I want to raise in Los Alamos. So, what does Los Alamos need? Well, I think that the county council could use with some diversity. So I am a small business owner. I rely solely on my small business as my income. My income is not supplemented by my wife's job. She's a stay-at-home mom and does more work than I do. My income relies solely on my small business, which is tough. That puts me in a tough spot. My business has to succeed or my family's finances will fail. The county council needs diversity. I don't like the idea of having all of our county councilors be real estate agents, lawyers, or lab employees. I mean that in the best way possible, in that diversity is key. I'm sure we could always use a lab employee on the county council. I'm sure we could always use a realtor on the county council, and I'm sure we could always use an attorney on the county council. But we need somebody else, somebody that represents the small business community, which has been seriously not represented well recently, or within recent memory. I'm only 24, so I haven't. Small business. My platform revolves around small business because that is my livelihood. Diversity. Let's think diversity. Let's put some county councilors onto the county council that have a different way of thinking, right? I'm 24. I'm pretty young. I'd like to think I think differently than some folks, right? Just because of my youth. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That just makes me different. Los Alamos County needs diversity. If we solely rely on the lab, let's think of this as a possibility. What happens if the lab closes tomorrow? I know that's not very likely. As a possibility, if the lab closes tomorrow, Los Alamos as a town would fail. There is nothing else up here to support Los Alamos residents outside of the lab. My name is Patrick Brenner. I am a representative of small business up here in Los Alamos, and I think we can make Los Alamos great. Thank you.
Okay, Jarrett McDonald, 3 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm delighted, as a matter of fact. I'm a lifetime resident of Los Alamos. I, too, like Ben Ray Lujan, have a tremendous amount of family members here tonight, so I'd like to thank my mom and my wife. So, with that, I'm really proud to admit that my wife and I are also really proud Rotary members of Los Alamos. I serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, so we're delighted to be working on our comprehensive plan. I'm also on the Board of Adjustment. I also have a small business. I work at the laboratory. And some of the platforms, some of the things that I'm running on that are really passionate to me are making sure that our public safety, we're supporting our local law enforcement the way we need to be. I want to see our officers start carrying some Narcan. There's been a lot of talk about opiate overdoses throughout the course of New Mexico, especially northern New Mexico, and I would like to see our officers carry that. I think that'd be a great opportunity for an officer to potentially save somebody's life. I'm really interested in neighborhood revitalization. I'd like to see that the removal of vacant housing by engaging homeowners, realtors, etc., to try and keep our neighborhoods beautiful. I want to keep it local. I would like to see Los Alamos dollars stay in Los Alamos, like Patrick was saying about small business. I think supporting our local small business is a huge, huge asset, not just to our community and our friends, but to our local economy. One of the other things that I'm really pro for is most people, no, I wouldn't say most, a lot of people aren't aware that we have a charter in Los Alamos and what the charter says, what the charter means, and how it applies to how we govern our county. So I've talked to, for example, like Dr. Kurt Steinhaus about making sure we get a little bit of charter education even in our school system, and he thought he might be able to do that, which I think would be fantastic. I'd also like to see the charter more available on our webpage, our county webpage. Has anybody read it? Show of hands, yeah. Great read. Did everybody stay awake while they were reading it? Okay. So, also, I'm extremely interested in making sure we stay on the county budget. And lastly, empowering the less fortunate with our local resources. But I think the thing I'm probably most passionate about is the fact that we still have a food insecurity problem in our county, and I want to help remediate that. Now, that doesn't mean the county has to pick up the whole bill. We do have over 150 not-for-profits in our county, which I believe can help. And I think the county can help administer some of these things. So I'd like to see that happen. Last but not least, community relations. I want to continue to grow and foster relationships with Lanel, the public schools, National Park Service, and all of our local pueblos. So, Jarrett McDonald running for council. Thank you.
Is it safe? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Thank you, League of Women Voters and UNMLA for hosting. I'm Stephen Gerens, and I'm seeking re-election to the County Council. Why am I running? You might ask. You'd think after 4 years you've had enough. I'm running again because there's exciting times ahead. Exciting times that I much desire to be an active part of. I've not asked for or taken any campaign contributions this time around because I want the opportunity to speak to you tonight on my own nickel. Exciting times. What do I mean? Just look around. We've got a teen center. We've got a nature center. We've got construction going on the White Rock Senior Center. Ashley Pond is absolutely gorgeous. We have a Manhattan Project National Historic Park. We are now the gateway to 3 national parks. That's how we're describing ourselves. That's unique. This is huge. This is a huge economic thing laid right in our lap. Tourism economy. Let's take advantage of it. It's given to us. We're making great progress on our comprehensive plan update, which has taken us a few years to get to, but what a community effort that's become. There's unfinished business, though, I want to participate in. We have another massive round of capital improvement projects we're considering, not just for recreation, but also for economic development. We need housing projects. And we need also to continue benchmarking our county services. How good do you know how well you're doing for your electorate unless you benchmark how well you're doing against outside states or outside communities? My priorities are basically unchanged from 4 years ago. I'm all about a safe place to live, and I want to keep it that way. I'm all about quality schools. And I believe we have a strong, positive culture. This is a great place to raise a family. That's what I want to maintain. By the way, passing the upcoming January school bond election is extremely critical. Money to rebuild Barranca, and it won't change tax rates. So I'll continue to be a champion for practical solutions. I will continue to make decisions to advance effective county government. I am committed. I'm practical. I'm decisive. Thank you.
Okay, Pete Sheehy.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I'm Pete Sheehy. I've lived and worked as a lab scientist here 30 years, first a single person, then with a family, and now as a retired person. When I knocked on doors 4 years ago and asked people what they wanted from our county government, they told me to go ahead with the most important investments for our future, but don't spend too much and make sure we get good value for taxpayers' dollars. That's what I've worked for. I'm proud that we've gone ahead with projects like the Teen Center, the Nature Center, and the new White Rock Library, Senior and Youth Centers. We're fortunate that we can afford investments like this while still maintaining reasonable financial reserves. The biggest issue that I see today is how do we prepare for and find consensus on this town's future? There's a new generation coming to work here, and they see a lot of the same things I saw when I first came. A healthy and beautiful environment, challenging work, and friendly, interesting people. We need to make investments so that these people will want to stay. Infrastructure to offer better places to live and work. Improvements in services to help small businesses grow. Support for our public schools, and recreational amenities. Priorities for these investments must be set by listening to our citizens and finding the common ground. The cards I leave when I knock on people's doors say I'm about communication, prioritization, sustainability, and fiscal responsibility. Communication starts with listening. I have plenty of confidence in my own ability to understand and solve problems. My PhD in physics and scientific career here are evidence of that. But many big problems have both technical and social aspects, And the more you listen to everyone, the better chance you have of finding solutions that everyone can live with. If we try to find the common ground to build on, that's how we can find our priorities on what's best for the whole community. Sustainability and fiscal responsibility can work together. We should transition to less polluting, more renewable energy generation and county operations. If we do this right, it will save money. With the council, I've asked staff to come up with smaller budgets for some capital improvements, and we've sometimes been able to get good facilities for half the original estimates. Los Alamos will remain a prosperous town, even with the uncertainties of lab contracts and budgets. We can afford the important things as long as we make good choices. Take a look at my website, petesheehy.com. I would be honored to serve you on the council for another 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, Chris Chandler is up next.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here, and thank you for coming, and thank you to the League for hosting this very important event. It's a great opportunity for us candidates to share our perspective and really our identities with you. It's just a little snippet of who we are. Pink's also my favorite color, but I thought it would be a cliche if I wore it, so. I'm a candidate for Los Alamos County Council. I don't plan to spend much time on my credentials. You can check me out on my website, chrisforcouncil.com. There's a little tab that says resume, and it pretty much goes through my long record of public service and my professional credentials. You get a complete picture, I hope, of what I've done in the community for the last 20 years or so. I do want to say one thing, though. I am a practicing attorney in practice with my husband. I am a small business owner. Over the course of the campaign, I've had the privilege to talk to hundreds of Los Alamos residents in virtually every neighborhood. Although people's views varied on a wide range of topics, I found it very heartening to hear the warmth and appreciation we all have for our town. There was a common thread. Residents, long-term and those with less longevity here, share common values. We love the small town, community-oriented nature of Los Alamos, and we want to sustain that core trait. People uniformly love the open space and trails. I'm not telling you anything. Everyone in this room knows that. The good schools, that's also obvious. Our appreciation for culture, science, and history, it bars none, really, in the state. And we are a safe place, and that's something that a lot of people, newer residents, said to me when we were visiting at their doorstep, the safety and the schools, and it's friendly. If elected, I'm going to use that core as the focus and to inform me on the things that I'm going to support. So, of course, I'm going to support open space and trails. I am very interested in revitalizing both the town site and the White Rock areas. Citizens really want to see that happen, and we will all benefit from that. I want, development and redevelopment, and I want our development to focus in redevelopment. Housing projects that the county helps support should include an affordable housing component. And I would note, A19 at this moment does not include such a component. And that's a big project that's going on for the community. I'd like to look at a local rental assistance program and see if that would help supplement the one that's provided by the state. And thank you. I had no idea that 3 minutes was so short. Thank you.
Antonio Maggiore.
Batting cleanup, no pressure. Good evening. I'm Antonio Maggiore. I think I know a lot of you here. I was born and raised here. I graduated high school in '95. My mom worked for the schools and my dad worked for the labs. And as such, that gives me a strong respect for both of those institutions in our community and the role that they play. I would say the vital role that they play. So both of those have my complete support. I went to college in Northern Arizona University and the Evergreen State College in Washington. And about 15 years ago, I moved back to town. And during my life, I've worked all over this town. Started at East Park Pool in the basket room and washing dishes at the Old Day Coloris. And I helped open Hot Rocks, and some of you, I probably still remember your burrito orders. So I love this town, and I love the diverse group of people that make this town what it is. What saddens me currently is I remember when this town had a record store, 2 bookstores, unique places like the Shalico Shop, Hobby Bench. For some of the newer residents, that may not ring any bells. I want to see that Los Alamos return. And I think as a small business owner here in town, owning my own landscaping business now for the past 9 years, I'm well poised to help bring about that return of Los Alamos as those longer residents, remember it, and what the newer residents aspire to have it be. I'm committed to green energy, preserving the open space, of course, developing tourism. When it comes to development and housing, I really want to see truly affordable housing in this town. You know, that means homes that are at about the $150,000 price range for the teachers, for the people who work in the service industry. And I think the best way forward with that is more of a community-based approach to development. So I want to look at outside-the-box models like co-ops and community land trusts. Good representation is the basis for good government, and I think I provide good representation for a lot of people who haven't currently been well represented on council. Thanks.
Okay, we'll now take questions. I'm left-handed, but I'm going to try to remember the right side of the room. For the first, so the first question, Ed. Do we have our mic?
Do you support the transition to clean energy? And if so, what would you do to facilitate that transition?
Okay, and I'm going to ask that we start with
Testing? Okay. Do you support the transition to clean energy? And if so, what would you do to facilitate the transition?
Okay, and we're going to start with Jared McDonald and then just go down the line, please.
Testing. All right, we're on. Good. So yeah, absolutely, I support clean energy. What would I do to facilitate it? Well, I mean, like anything we would have to do on council, we'd have to work together. We have to look at the economic input, or not input, but the economic impact rather, of how we would ascertain that. I guess that's my answer.
We are, as a energy producer, participating in the NuScale project in Idaho, and that's what I believe is a significant answer to clean energy that can produce the 24/7 large amounts of electric power that we need. Nuclear.
What is your definition of clean energy? Clean energy could mean strictly wind and solar, but in reference to what Mr. Gierens was referring to, clean energy could also mean nuclear power. There's a small modular nuclear reactor program that they're starting up in Idaho, and I mean, based on carbon dioxide emissions, it is clean energy. If that's your only criteria for clean energy. Los Alamos is already doing its part to transition into clean energy, and I think we should at least maintain that momentum, if not increase it. Again, it depends on everyone's definition of clean energy.
I do support the transition to less polluting, more renewable energy generation in county operations. The NuScale new technology nuclear energy project is an option. It is certainly safer than traditional nuclear reactors, but there are a lot of uncertainties about what the ultimate cost will be. We're keeping our options open there. The Board of Public Utilities and the Utilities Department is pursuing a very comprehensive look at all possible forms of energy generation, and some early results I think I've seen are that we could take several more megawatts of solar. The sun shines so well here. We can get that. That's not a solution, but that's several megawatts of our load that is at now pretty cheap and very reliable. I just put an array on my house for less than $10,000, and the county is paying me for energy. It's generating more than my home needs. So there are a lot of options. If towns in Texas can be generating 30 to 50% of their energy with renewables, we can too.
Yes, I do support moving towards cleaner energy options. I support getting out of the Four Corners plant as soon as we can, and I know there is a projection to do that. And I would oppose moving our purchasing to the Laramie River plant, which is also a coal generating plant, and which presently the county has a contract to purchase coal for. So bottom line is I support moving out of coal and moving into renewables such as solar. I know that those options are being explored by the utility department, and I would support them to the fullest extent that I could. The nuclear reactor, the small modular one that's being talked about, there are a lot of uncertainties, but of course that is something that we are fortunate to be able to participate in and evaluate. And if it does seem to be a viable economic option, I would of course support that as well. Thank you.
I'm definitely in favor of transition to cleaner energy. But I'd really like to see a lot more of that clean energy be locally produced. So that means when we're building new county buildings, like the municipal building and the judicial center, that we actually stub out for rooftop solar, even if it's not in the budget to put those solar panels on right away. Let's start planning a little more proactively for our future and make sure we're set up that when the time is right, we can actually do that. As far as the small scale nuclear, it's cleaner than the coal. It's 4.5 states away, and the logistics on that don't make a lot of sense to me. I would rather see us expanding on locally produced hydroelectric and pushing to build a local infrastructure as opposed to we have a lot of brain power here in town. I'd like to see us use a little more of it.
Okay, let's see, another question. Kathy? And this time we're going to start with Antonio and go that way.
I'd like to hear you say what 3 things you think would be most important to support small businesses in this community.
Finding a way to control the rent, first and foremost. A better trained workforce and offering more workforce training, and then increasing our public transportation. Because I think it's hard to expect people who are less well off to work jobs that work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night if they don't have a way to get home, especially when they have a habit of putting those who are less well off as far away from downtown as possible. Those are the big 3 for me, and then changing the comprehensive plan or adopting the comprehensive plan, I guess I should say, to really expand mixed use and start getting people living in our downtown areas. That's key.
I'd like to see if we could develop a local purchasing preference program. The county itself should be looking to purchase from local businesses when they can. For example, the fire department used to have their firefighters purchase their gym shoes locally, and that was changed. And so now they get vouchers. The firefighters get vouchers, and they can go down to Albuquerque and purchase their things, their resources, their shoes there. So it seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit when they could just as easily purchase here, and it would help vitalize the economy. That's just one small example, but I think there's some options for growth in that arena. I think we need to make doing business in town easier and streamline the licensing and permitting rules. And I also agree that having residents live closer to stores and businesses by revitalizing the downtown and putting in housing that is close to where people can do business will help the economy for the community. I think that's 3.
First, prepare for and promote increased tourism related to the Manhattan Project, National Historic Park, Valles Caldera, and Mandalay. Second, continue improving the permitting process, simplifying the rules as much as we can. An online permitting system is coming, which will help avoid confusion, but the staff's attitudes also need to be consistently helpful, explaining how to get things done if there are obstacles. More efficient permitting will allow local businesses and commercial landlords to operate more competitively. Third, we should implement tax and code enforcement policies that encourage refurbishment and occupation of vacant housing and commercial space. Infrastructure development to offer more housing options will make this a more inviting place for people to live, work, and shop. The more people who live here and the more tourists who visit, the more customers there will be for local business.
Limited regulation is one way to help small businesses here in Los Alamos. It's tough to own a small business, period. It's tougher when the regulations are not on your side, or at least the enforcement of those regulations. I have never seen such a strict sign code as there is in Los Alamos. I print signs for a living. It's tough. It's tough for me to print them. It's tough for these businesses to get through the permitting process. It's confusing and it's not acceptable. So regulation, limit regulation. Number 2 would be to consider rezoning downtown. I would like to see small business in every location, and currently empty location downtown. That'd be really awesome if we could put a small business in every one of those empty storefronts. So when I mean by zoning is, I don't like the idea of the lab being allowed downtown. I'm just gonna say that. I think the lab should stay to the lab, and that they should leave downtown to us business folk. So 1, regulation, 2, zoning. 3 would be, I think the county should at least try to give preferential treatment to small businesses up here. So the best way to grow small business is to use a small business, folks, come on. The county should lead the way.
It seems to me what small businesses need to survive is, 1, they need employees and they need customers. One of the things that we agree that we need to work on for a lot of our small businesses is this affordable housing. I don't know what that means, but we need some kind of higher density, some kind of product that can help serve that service industry, those small business people that are the employees to the small businesses, so that they can live up here, not have to travel so far, have more of them here. We see some opportunities for the housing projects that we're working on here moving forward. We've talked about it at our meetings about the A8 project. You know, that may be a good place. And then I also like this mixed use downtown. The thing about customers, our population has gone down from 20 thousand to 18. We've got to do something to raise that tide back up. I don't know if you all realize it or not, but the lab hired 400 people last year. 400 new people, okay? And they're not living here because we do not have housing stock. So we've got to get with it. We've got to do more housing ASAP. It's all the housing across the board. And, but I really do think there needs to be a mix in this so there is some higher density that can be more affordable.
The three things that I'd be interested in doing is, I hate to take a rip off from my friend Antonio, but transportation I think is a huge one. Having those transportation running on the weekends, evenings, so people actually have an opportunity to get home and be the places they need to be. And then I'm going to move right on to Chris. Chris, I guess I'm going to rip you off on this one too. But the incentives are a big deal too, because I also remember at some point at Lanolin, it seemed to me when the guys would buy safety shoes, work clothing, that type of thing, it was sort of unacceptable to go any other place than a local business in Los Alamos. And aside from the fire department, the laboratory, I'd like to be able to see that they could do that as well. I think that would make a huge difference with some of these businesses that could use our help. The last, I'm not ripping off from anybody, and that's from neighborhood revitalization. Neighborhood revitalization obviously doesn't have to be in a neighborhood. It can be a business district or downtown. And I think if some of our buildings that are outdated, some of the landowners or the commercial property owners have the opportunity to fix these things up, more businesses might come in, we might have more selection, we might have a little more competition, it might make everybody a lot happier. So that's what I feel. Thank you.
Okay, this gentleman over here on the aisle.
During the last week's League of Women's Voters debate, the Los Alamos Police Department attempted to remove or disrupt Deputy Sheriff Warren prior to the start of the debate scheduled between him and Robert Gibson. It has come to my attention from information released to me from the county through the use of the Freedom of Information Act that Jarrett McDonald was the origin of the complaint, while Jarrett was not even present during the debate. Jarrett did not contact the LAPD dispatch via 911 or the non-emergency number to report his complaint. Instead, he texted the chief of police directly to report that Deputy Horn showed up armed, that people are concerned if it was even legal, and indicated that people don't feel comfortable. Despite these people also reporting, the Deputy Sheriff Horn seemed calm.
Could we get to the question, please? If you have a question for the candidates, please, right now.
Okay. So with this seemingly underhanded and unethical or potentially unethical influence in the electoral process, how as a council member can you guys support or condone this? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with Patrick, go down that way, and then move over to Pete and go down that way.
What's the question again?
How can you condone this?
Condone what, sir? Condone what?
Calling the police.
I lost you. I lost the
Okay,
train
if you
here.
continue to interrupt me, you're going to continue to lose me. So what I'm saying is that Jarrett McDonald was not here. He called the police chief directly. This seems to be undermining the electoral process. How can you as a council member condone this?
So on its surface, it seems that Jared, I love you. I get a beer with you anytime. But that does not seem quite right to me, to try to undermine another side by texting the police chief when you're not even present at a debate. From looking at the situation, I don't like big town politics. This seems like a big town politicking thing to do. And we're Los Alamos and we're better than that. I think that's rather disappointing to hear. But I was called a walking cliche earlier, so.
I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to shoot from the hip for something that I don't understand.
Well, ironically, this question has come down to me. So I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and tell you, give you a brief little rundown here. I can't believe that anybody would actually think that my actions were politically motivated. I believe I did what anybody would or should do. People at the last League of Women's Voters event brought to me a concern via text message, said that they felt uncomfortable with John Horn being armed here and especially since as I understand he was released from county employment. And the folks said, hey, I just don't feel comfortable. Would this be something you might be willing to talk to the chief about? And I say, yeah, I don't mind talking to him. I feel like I did what anybody would want to do. I don't believe their actions were politically motivated either. I was merely a conduit that I feel like I got a hold of the chief. And I would like to think that any county councilor or candidate, or anybody else for that matter, if somebody brought them a concern, that you would try and address it. I think that's what you're supposed to do. Like every position, public or private, you can't make everyone happen, but the last thing this was politically motivated. I don't see how this could benefit me or anybody else for that matter. So, thank you. Well, thank you. At least
We know who he is.
I don't condone the action, but I'm going to jump right to the question of the elimination of the sheriff. I just published a letter in the paper explaining why I see a role for both the sheriff and the police department in this county government. Here are 3 examples of why I feel the sheriff helps make Los Alamos a safer place. 1, someone comes to the sheriff and tells him that Councilor Sheehy is up to no good. Without any conflict of interest, the sheriff can ask questions and check that out. If the situation warrants, he can take it to state or federal authorities. I think that's basic good government. 2, let's say the sheriff is doing his job and someone becomes violent, or he sees activity that threatens public safety. I expect him to respond with action to protect public safety to the limits of his abilities and bring in the police department as soon as he can. The charter specifically gives him the powers of a peace officer, and he is not duplicating the function of the police until police officers can arrive. 3, in a public emergency such as another forest fire or terrorist incident, properly trained and certified sheriff's deputies could also serve as ready reserves. Part-time sheriff's deputies who are certified by the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy, as Sheriff Lucero already is, are fully covered by the county's law enforcement liability insurance. A small but properly focused sheriff's office will help make Los Alamos a safer place.
So are we still on the question of the text message? Look, I don't know what the facts are, and you can't make a conclusion on speculation and accusations. I know Jarrett. I've worked with Jarrett. I think he's an honorable person, and if he reported something, I think he had a good faith belief that he was trying to do the right thing. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't have any more factual information in front of me.
Like Steve and Chris, I didn't really hear a question directed at me. I think Jarrett answered himself, and I'm going to let this one go.
Okay, the gentleman in the yellow shirt.
Do you think that county government has a place in the communication business? In particular, I'm interested in whether or not you think county government can help improve broadband delivery in the county.
Okay, so this time I'm going to start with Pete and go that way, and then start with Jarrett and go this way.
Broadband access for everyone is a basic utility for the 21st century. If we want a healthy economy, we need to get there. The cost estimate to run the fiber to every home in this town was something like 30 or 40 million, and we don't have the money, and I don't believe the citizens would be willing to pay the taxes to do that. But the county is moving to get broadband available. We are participants in the ReadyNet system, which brings broadband access to all the schools and government facilities, and it offers downtown White Rock and Los Alamos as well business access. It should be possible to build neighborhood cooperatives where 20 or 30 neighbors get together, pay a few $1,000s a piece to get run from ReadyNet to their homes, and then a local provider to provide them broadband at a reasonable price. ReadyNet has some growing pains. Comcast and CenturyLink are seeing that competition and are moving forward pretty aggressively as well to give us access. We've got to have it. How to get there is the issue, but we will.
Thanks for the question, Andy. It's my understanding, Andy, that you are on a committee presently looking into how the county may provide broadband to its citizens or some other form of high-speed internet. And until that report is prepared and ready to go, it's still a little hard to say. I support the concept of providing such a utility to the citizenry, but there is the cost issue, and I remember the cost even being higher than 30 million. I thought it was in the 60 million range. So, and clearly that's not affordable, but I'm interested in hearing more after the committee has worked through some possible recommendations and solutions, and certainly would be open because I think it's an important, it's almost a necessity for individuals at this point in time. Thanks, Andy.
I definitely feel that there is a role for the county to play in bringing broadband here and managing it as a basic utility. There are other cities around the country that have actually already done it, like Nashville, and I think given the makeup of this town, as people like Eric in the back with their startups and stuff, you really need high-speed, serious fiber optic broadband. Yes, it is slowly coming, and how can we work to get it closer? That's the issue, but it definitely has my support in terms of the utility.
Jared?
Yeah, so I absolutely love the idea. You know, there's a huge cost associated with this, right? But, you know, I think if we get some counselors, we get some other people on some of these other boards, maybe we can kind of think out of the box and come up with something really creative that nobody else has come up with. But the cost does scare me, but I would absolutely be in support of this as some sort of county utility. Thanks.
We would have broadband up here now as part of the ReadyNet system if we could get the lines laid across a certain piece of property down in the valley. And so we're working on that. We're working on some possible other ways that we might be able to bring the full speed up. Right now we're limited, we're choked down by our RF transmitter stations. That's how we hook into the broadband, that's the ReadyNet system, the big pipe that's laying down there, and then transmit or get access back and forth to the town. What the other thing we've been doing is we've been building some nodes. They talked about putting them in some of the schools and the libraries, and we've been building some nodes with our capital money in different spots for people to tie into. As far as building an infrastructure to put it out into the town, or to put it out into the residential areas, I don't know the best way to have that, how that's going to work. I don't know if the technology will be there so that it can leverage off of either the cable or the cyber or the phone company. I think I agree with Councilor Sheehy. You know, broadband for the 21st century is as important. Internet, high-speed internet, is important as electricity was in rural in the 20th century.
I think the real question is, do we all want to be on the phone with Comcast Tech Support? Do I think it's the county's responsibility to bring broadband to Los Alamos? That's a tough question. I don't think that the county has a responsibility to do that. I do think that they could certainly help with the coordination efforts of bringing in somebody that I would really hope is not Comcast to do it, or CenturyLink for that matter. I've never actually had to deal with CenturyLink, but Comcast is absolutely terrible as far as their tech support goes. Anywho, no, I don't think it's the county's responsibility. I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna take the gentleman there in the back.
Good evening. A while back, I provided all the counselors and the candidates with some documentation about overstaffing in the county in regards to the IT department and also upper and middle management. And for instance, back in 2012, we had the county administrator and then the department manager. Now we've got 2 deputy county managers or administrators underneath. So what did we need those people for? In the meantime, we also lost 50 full-time equivalents. So that's a big reduction in the workforce while we're adding people in other places. So what would you do about right-sizing the county and not rubber stamping the administration's desires for more staff?
Okay, we're going to start with Antonio and go down the line.
When did you send this information out? Because I got back into this race a little late and I never received anything from you.
Well, for the candidates, I sent them out to your party headquarters. So they should have disseminated the information to you.
Okay.
I'll send it to you if you don't have it.
I would love to see it. Until I see it, I can't really answer it, except to acknowledge that middle management bloat is sometimes a very real and pervasive problem.
Thank you, Mr. Carrena. I appreciated our conversation on that when you sent the materials. I agree with you. I have also been involved in county government for about 20 years, and the growth and the higher levels of management really are evident. And I think those of you who know me in the audience know that I'm not a rubber stamp. I ask critical questions, and I ask the tough questions, and it makes people uncomfortable sometimes, but I'm willing to do it if I think it needs to be done. For example, a few months ago, the council passed a $500,000 pay package on top of the annual raise. I don't know if you were around when that happened, but I was very concerned when it happened because there was virtually no discussion about whether it was appropriate for all levels of staff, and it was implemented in one fell swoop. So when I worked at the lab and someone was found to be out of alignment, sometimes we had to wait for 3 years until our salary was brought up to the alignment rate. In this case, everybody got into alignment and then got whatever raise they were entitled to on top of it. And I was very concerned when I was in the audience listening about this during the budget crisis because I felt there should have been more discussion.
Every year, when we go through the budget, we do ask the county manager and department heads to look for economies. They've been actually, in the last few years when we had very tight budgets, tax revenues were several million short of what we expected. We found some savings. The specific $500,000 that Chris refers to was to get a number of jobs which had fallen way below the competitive average up to a reasonable level with everybody else. I looked at that and felt it was justified on the recommendation of the county manager. Now, do we have staff that we can do without? No doubt, we ask every year to find ways to minimize that. IT in particular, there's a lot of work going on, new computer systems, new computerized accounting systems, which, when they are successfully implemented, we may then be able to cut back IT staff because they won't be patching the old systems. But this county, the people of this county expect a high level of services. We're trying to give that to them. We're trying to do it economically.
Too many generals and not enough soldiers, right? Too much middle management. It's a problem. You've laid out all of the details of it. As far as correcting it, well, if we have less of those soldiers, do we still need that many generals commanding them? Why not just let the generals go? It seems that we would all save on that. So, to answer your question, it seems that in response to the reduction in workforce on the lower levels, why don't we reduce the management levels accordingly as well?
So I think Councilor Sheehy gave a very good answer to this, seeing inside data that we were provided on the certain spots, the certain employee positions that were out of position when compared to market levels across several areas where they get this information data from to do these comparisons. We had the money, we made the decision to fix it all in one swoop. The longer you drag those things out, the worse that gets. As far as do we have too many managers and not enough workers? I don't see any real evidence or have been presented any evidence that problem even exists. And then the other thing I wanted to point out for sure that Councilor Sheehy also said is that we're in the process of updating an IT system that's pretty archaic, and we're doing a lot of patching, and there is a lot of problems, and several times you have to get your equipment fixed or rebooted, and until we get one system put in place that we've been working on now for a couple of years, we'll see how that alleviates some of the difficulties. Thanks.
Tough question, not as tough as the other one I got. But, let's talk about this. I think you did a lot of homework and a lot of research when you asked this question. And, I think one of the things you got to do when you do a comparative analysis, you've got to get as close to apples and oranges as oranges. In other words, when we looked at this analysis, I looked at some of these other counties, and I don't believe those are all home rule counties either. So when I look at our county and I look at our structuring, over the past 3 years, we've lost 25 employees just to attrition. And it's sort of a trend that sort of seems to keep on going. Now, granted, we increased by 10 full-time employees last year on the fire department, of course, but which are funded by 80% by DOE. So I'm not sure that we're necessarily out of whack or out of line, but I do absolutely think that these are things that we need to look at as far as managing our county. Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up now. So, and I know there are a lot of other good questions out there, so I apologize that we are running short of time. So we will give the candidates 1 minute for a closing statement. We will again go in ballot order, so we'll start with Mr. Brenner. And you're welcome to use the podium.
I don't want to use the podium. Thank you, though. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending this evening. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending it with us. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to UNMLA for graciously allowing us to use their auditorium. I think this is the auditorium. It's been a while. I can't really remember what all the names of the buildings are called. Anywho, I think that my priorities are clear. Small business, diversity. I think this is something that Los Alamos needs, and I think that I can certainly provide that. I sincerely ask for your vote come the election in November, or if you've already early voted, I'm sorry I missed the opportunity. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you, League of Women Voters. This has been a wonderfully fun night, I think. But, you know, as I look around the room, you know, it's great to see so many concerned people about our county and how it's going to run and who those potential leaders might be. And I do want to say that of the 6 of us that up here, I say that no matter what, Los Alamos wins on whoever does get chosen. I mean, we don't have to choose the least worst, and that makes me very proud as a community, okay? So, yeah, even you, Pete. No, but I would like your vote. I hope you consider voting for me. I don't just make jokes. I do work very hard, and I do love this county. Thank you, and please consider voting for me.
I close tonight emphasizing the word trustee. Yes, trustee of you, the citizens of Los Alamos. That's what a counselor is. It's a trustee for the citizenry. I'm a 37-year resident of Los Alamos County, living in White Rock. My wife Sharon Stover and I raised 2 children. I have a lifelong record of volunteering with various clubs, the schools, and county endeavors. Trustee, accountable to the citizenry. I have a vapor trail of sustained contribution to this community the last 3 years, 9 months on the council, doing the county's business. I am totally invested in this community. I offer my unique experiences and perspectives in continued service to the council. For more info, please check out my webpage, Garen'sForCouncil.com. Thank you, and I humbly ask for your vote.
I am focused as a counselor on working toward a better future for this town based upon listening to the community. A growing and diversified local economy will make this a better place for all of us and for the lab to attract good people and their families. We're fortunate that we can afford important investments in infrastructure, economic development, and quality of life while still holding reasonable financial reserves. This is a town of many voices and opinions, but we can and do listen to each other and ultimately move forward together. I'm happy to offer my knowledge and skills to help us move to a better future. I do my homework, and I will continue to do so. I would be honored to serve you on the council for another 4 years. Thank you.
I'm a 20-plus year resident of Los Alamos, and since I moved here, I have spent virtually all of my free time working on activities in support of the community. I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I was on the Charter Review Commission, and it's really not all that boring a document once you start to understand it and realize how important it is for our town governance. I care about the core, and if I'm elected, I'm going to focus on improving the town, improving the town's core, improving the neighborhoods, revitalizing the downtown, and working so that the community serves its current residents and provides a welcoming place to people who want to live here. And I thank you, and I appreciate your vote.
Again with the cleanup. Okay, I stand before you humble, willing to serve, ready to serve. I'm a hard worker. I'm dedicated to this community. I've lived my whole life here, and it's time to give back. And so I hope I've earned some of your votes tonight, and I hope I haven't lost too many votes here tonight. And just the important part is, which we see everyone doing here, which is to take ownership in this community. And that's really the thing I want to encourage, is how we build and foster that sense of community. And the first step is by everyone here coming out and voting. So thank you, and thank you to the League as well. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, so thank you very much to our county council candidates. We now will hear from the county clerk candidates. We have Naomi Miestas and Amy Woods. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll follow the same format as with the other candidates. And then once again, we're going to go in ballot order. So we will start with Naomi Miestas.
Alrighty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naomi Miestas, and I'm excited to be a candidate for the Los Alamos County Clerk. We moved to the superb community 14 years ago when my husband Sammy accepted a position with the Los Alamos County. We have 3 wonderful children, one who's in the audience, Serenity, my older son Andres, and my younger son Isaiah. We love and appreciate all that Los Alamos has to offer and the opportunities it has provided for our family. And for that reason, I want to give back. And in what better way than the capacity that I am most familiar with? I've worked with the Los Alamos County Clerk's Office for the last 10 years. I know firsthand what the job of the county clerk entails. I have a heart and a passion for all areas that encompass the office and a heart and passion that encompass the office, from recording documents and selling marriage licenses to consoling grieving individuals that come in to deal with probate issues, to attending council meetings. While I have a strong regard for these areas, I have to admit it's the election process that I am most passionate about. At our recent poll worker training, our poll workers were asked, why do you do this? Why do you work long hours for minimal pay? Excuse me. I was touched by their replies. You see, citizen participation, that's the heart of democracy. And that's an honor to be a fundamental member or piece of that process. Prior to working for the Los Alamos County Clerk's Office, I worked in various other elements, and you can visit that on my Facebook page or on my website. I have to hurry, so I'm going to continue. But I'm proud of the progression that we've made during my tenure with the office. We've made advances in revolutionizing elections and pioneered modernization of recording. We've done so many great things in our office. We're a great team. But I want to continue the modernization of our election process while always protecting the right to vote for all eligible voters. I want to raise community awareness of the duties of the clerk's office, reinforce and build our voting culture by providing general education to our youth and voting election methods. I want to continue state and national relationships to stay abreast of the laws that promote legislation beneficial to Los Alamos County. In 2011, the complex duties and responsibilities of the clerk were recognized by the Charter Review Committee. In their final report, the council and the CRC recommended that the position of the clerk be made into a full-time position. As acknowledged by the CRC, this position requires full-time attention, and I'm committed to bring my ambition, my knowledge, and my experience to the position on a full-time basis, providing transparent, reliable service to the great community of Los Alamos. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for hanging out to the bitter end of a long evening. I am Amy Woods, and I am very proud to be running for county clerk here in Los Alamos. My roots are here in Los Alamos, with my parents, Carlotta and Bibi McIntyre, have contributed heavily through the years to the community, and I want to continue that tradition of service. In keeping with that, I'm currently planning on serving on Planning and Zoning Commission, where, as has been mentioned repeatedly, we are in the final stages of the comprehensive plan, much needed. I'm currently the president of the Los Alamos Council on Cancer. They have a seminar that they're missing me at. And until recently, I was the secretary of the Pajarito Acres Homeowners Association. I agree that the job of county clerk requires excellent management skills, precise documentation protocols to ensure accuracy, the ability to absorb and implement new technology, and a commitment to transparency and ethics. To that end, I have a very successful career in management. I was a manager with IBM, field service manager, branch manager, data general regional manager. That's given me a large understanding of data and data management to be used in managerial needs. As county clerk, I will bring forward my IBM-sponsored BSBA in management from Syracuse University and my MBA from Anna Maria College in Massachusetts. I currently work with Zia Realty Group as a broker. Sorry for those of you who didn't want a broker, I are one. This experience has been invaluable in understanding the demographics of today's Los Alamos. I grew up here, but I haven't lived here all that time. It's emphasized the importance of proper documentation, understanding and cooperation with lots of regulations, and the significance of accurate records while demonstrating the importance of good customer service. I have come to believe good customer service requires a really broad understanding of the skills as well as the ability to communicate. I strongly believe we need county officials with broad experience who follow the regulations of Los Alamos County and the state of New Mexico in a manner that shows appreciation for the special nature of Los Alamos and honors every family who calls Los Alamos home. I thank you for listening to me.
All right, we'll now open the floor to questions for these candidates. Yeah, over here in the black.
Hi, so in 2013, Los Alamos County Clerk became the first county clerk in New Mexico to defy a court order and deny a same-sex marriage license. So that action and the ensuing lawsuit cost this county $80,000. I would like to know from both of you whether or not you support same-sex marriage, one, and two, what you would have done differently had you been in office at the time.
I'd like to ask Amy to answer first.
Although I wholeheartedly support marriage equality, I would have upheld the laws of the state of New Mexico, and I would have obeyed the court orders without requiring lawsuit.
So your first question, I believe, was do I support or?
Yes.
I personally take a traditional stance on marriage. However, I strongly believe every individual, no matter what you believe in, who you are, male, female, it doesn't matter. I believe that everybody should be treated equally with fairness, with kindness, with respect in the office and out of the office, as I would want it to be treated as well. And at that time, I believe there is more to the issue than what happened. Actually, Bernalillo, Santa Fe County, all of the counties were sued. I was not in the office at the time. I had to take a break of service. I had to care for my mom, and I was trying to stay home with my little ones. But I don't know the full stats of it. But from what I've researched, I have seen that a lot of counties were sued. We were not the only one. As a matter of fact, I believe Santa Fe County was sued before us. Bernalillo County was also sued before us. But I have already sold 2 to 3 marriage licenses. And I think that their stance at the time was, okay, let's do this, but if you want us to do this, the application, the first person that got that marriage license application reads bride and groom. So somebody has to be a bride, somebody has to be a groom. So I think from my understanding, what they were wanting is clarification in the law. The state prescribed form right now says bride and groom. So they're just wanting clarification from my understanding. Again, I don't know.
Okay, do we have another question? Anybody who hasn't asked a question this evening? All right, go ahead then.
Thank you. Do you have any ideas for using technology to make voting easier for millennials?
Technology easier for millennials?
Do you have any ideas for using technology to make voting easier for millennials?
So right now, we have, in the beginning of this year, 2016, the Secretary of State launched an online voter registration, which is great. Voting, when you open up voting online, you're susceptible to cyber security issues. Right now, all our machines are not anywhere hooked up to the internet or online in any way. That way there's no compromising of the ballot in any way. To make a suggestion, I would think the primary thing would be for voter registration. That's your main tool of getting it. Our voter registration is actually up almost by 1,000 voters since the primary. So we're getting there, but we cannot compromise the integrity of the ballot itself. So that's something that maybe we could collaborate with other counties, see how other states are doing it, but it's thin water, it's like a thin ice there. You don't want to compromise the ballot in any way or compromise somebody's vote. I think when you open up it to internet, you could lead to problems. It could lead to problems.
I have one small brainstorm. Has anybody ever met a millennial who wasn't carrying around an iPhone? Has anybody ever had to reset your password? So when you have to reset your password, they send you a little code. And you put that code in and set your password again. It's a one-use code, okay? It can't be repeated. How about we set it up so the millennials can use a one-use code and vote on the iPhone? I don't disagree that security issues are important, and I know that there's cyber attacks all over, but you can prevent a lot of that, and you can get the millennials and the people who are married to their phones into the voting process by letting them use the tools they currently have.
Do we have any other questions? Kathy?
What are the differences between what the county clerk does and what other people in the office do? And what's most important about being the clerk?
I'm sorry,
As somebody who has a very limited experience in the clerk's office, I do know that the probate judge is supported by us in terms of record keeping and by customer service. Okay, and to that extent, the clerk is responsible for all of the records, not just the probate judge, but the marriage licenses and the recordings of deeds and the transfers. And those things happen inside that office.
So your question, just to clarify, is what's the difference between the clerk and the remainder of the staff? So, well, currently, like I mentioned in my speech, the position is only a part-time position. So right now it's kind of a figurehead more so, whereas in the future, or now in 2017, January 2017, it'll be a full-time position. So that person would be, I would expect for that person to be hands-on. Right now, there's days that we work 16 hours a day. We work weekends, we work nights. I would expect that the clerk would do the same thing, would be in the trenches with staff, right now the clerk is not because they're there, not only the current clerk that I've worked for, but the two other clerks that I've worked for as well, they just didn't have the time to be there full time. So they didn't get into the recording process, the minute taking process, attending council meetings, probate, anything with the probate they were not able to do. We as staff already do that, and I currently do that, and I will continue to do that as a clerk. And also, of course, it's management. It's working on the budget, which I currently help with right now. It's overseeing the office. And what's great is that we have such a great working relationship. I think that can only foster the motivation and continue to progress staff in the right way it should be going.
Okay, Antonio?
I have a question regarding same-day voter registration, and if either one of you are elected, if you will do anything to apply a little pressure at the state level to encourage same-day voter registration. New Mexico?
So, goodness gracious, sorry. Currently, you know, I see pros and cons of that. You know, I think everybody should always have the right to vote. I don't think we should ever infringe on that. And I think that we can get a good model to go after, you know, why not? But, you know, it could open up, it just, we need to be careful how we do it. We need to really investigate, make sure it's the best thing for the voter, and that their ballot or their, nothing is ever compromised with them. So I think, you know, there's pros and cons. Right now, as clerk staff, sometimes I say, oh my goodness, can you imagine if we were having to register somebody and allow them to vote at the same time? But actually, absentee voting, we actually have people come in that are registering to vote and are actually able to vote. That to give us 10 minutes, we'll get you up and running. You can go down and vote immediately. So, you know, there's pros and cons in it, but I think we would have to definitely look into the matter, make sure we're pulling out the safest, the best thing for the voter. At the end of the day, that's what we want to protect, is the voter rights, the voters' privacy of their ballot. That's what's important to us. The integrity of their ballot, I guess.
I think that same-day voting is a really great idea, but I do think it's really crucial that we're careful to not register people to vote who aren't actually eligible. We have to watch the security, the cybersecurity, and make sure that all those elements are in place. But yeah, I love the idea of better voter accessibility, an easier range of getting to the polls. Or how about just having to go once to register and to vote? I like that idea very well.
Yeah, we have a question over here.
In your introduction, Naomi, you mentioned reaching out to educate people about voting and things like that, and my question goes directly to that. A couple of years ago, I read an article in which I learned that something like 65 or 70% of the American public can't name the three houses of the federal government, the three branches of the federal government. And this is going to kind of sound snotty, but I'm not sure I want people voting who don't know that much basic knowledge, because how do you know what you're voting for if you don't know what you're voting for? So, but I do want to see an increase in voting. I just want to see an increased informed voting. So what would you do along those lines of reaching out in the schools and education system to improve knowledge about the voting system and knowledge about what we're voting for in a nonpartisan way?
Okay, I'd like to ask Amy to address that first.
Thank you, I appreciate the question. I agree with you that we need to make sure that our voters get informed as much as possible. The League of Women Voters puts out massive amounts of information to try and inform people. I've never figured out how to force somebody to read things, but it might help. Getting out into the schools and practicing with voting machines, getting involved directly with answering questions, providing information booths, those are all suggestions that might well lead to a better informed voter pool.
I agree. Let's get go into the elementaries. Let's start teaching civics, 101. I think we're very fortunate to live in a very educated community. I think a lot of our voters are educated. We get really great voter turnout. But I agree, let's go into our school to start in the elementaries. We currently have student poll workers that come in and they help us for different elections, which is great. But I think we can do better. I think we can go into the schools. Let's show them the machines. Let's get them interested. Let's maybe have some incentive to do it, because I don't think, and even with our adults, we have a very about 100 or so poll workers that we can pull from. Out of, I think there's 17 or 18,000 people that live here, 14,000 registered voters, and we only have 100 and some that we can pull from poll workers. I think we can do better. I think if we get that, spark that interest at a younger age, I think, if people saw the way the process of the electoral process was, I think, I know I get excited about it, and I think they would as well. Once you get in there, you get hands-on, get our, start in the elementaries, move on to the middle school, and let's start getting more of our student poll workers to come in and help us.
Okay, we have a question over there.
I worked in Red Rock often in the polling place, and the best polling place that we had down there was the fire station. In the last couple of elections, it's been over at the new library, which is sort of a very cramped place. And as a poll worker, I would much rather have been over at the fire station than at the library. I've not been a poll worker since the library became a location. What are the chances of having the White Rock Fire Station be used again for the polling?
Okay, Naomi, would you like to address that?
Yes, so Mr. Newton, first and foremost, we have to, ADA compliance is our major target. That's what we have to, we're trying to figure out what's the best place for not only our, all voters, whether it's disability, we have to think of elderly. We were trying out something new. The space is smaller, but the door is not as heavy as at the fire station. The door was pretty heavy. We had a lot of complaints about that. And also, it was we were infringing on the firefighters and their trainings. So we're definitely looking at other sites for the future. I believe White Rock Town Hall may be completed by 2018, so that's a possibility. There's other possibilities for in Los Alamos. I'm hoping that we can open up more sites here. Let's get maybe a site over one of the senior centers or a mobile site or something more convenient for our elderly that can't walk. Right now there's a lot of absentee applications or ballots that go out to them, but let's make it, if they want to put they prefer to put their ballot into a machine, let's open up more sites. But I agree with you, it is a little more cramped than the fire station, but we're trying out something new because of the complaints we received during the last election.
It seems to me that the more people that vote early, the less crowded the poll places will be. I grant you that the library is more cramped than the fire station. If people come out early, the cramping won't be as painful.
Okay, we're now going to get the closing statements from our candidates. Again, we're going to go in ballot order, so Ms. Maestas will go first.
Alrighties, ladies and gentlemen, first off, thank you for being here this evening. I'd like to close by stating I'm running for county clerk because I truly believe in what we do in the office. I've been fortunate enough to do it for the last 10 years. This position is so much more than an oversight and management role. While that is important, I believe good management stems from belief and passion of what you're doing on a daily basis. This is not a job that should be learned as we go. We need relevant, experienced leadership to ensure the election process is protected and operations of the office are handled in an efficient manner. I have the integrity to provide ethical, quality customer service. I have the experience to have built relationships with staff needed to cultivate motivation, and I have the vision and insight to lead our team. I will continue to prioritize reliability, transparency, community awareness, and modernization of the election process and office functions. Above all, I believe in democracy. I believe in providing the best customer service to all. I'm excited about this opportunity, and I thank you, the great community of Los Alamos, for your support and for your valuable time in considering me to be your next Los Alamos County Clerk. And remember, you can shape tomorrow by voting today.
Thank you. I claim experience in the following managerial skills: being a good coach, empowering employees, the ability to express and understand concern, being results-oriented, the ability to listen and communicate goals, offering career help, and having a vision and a strategy, and of course, having the ability to gain the necessary technical skills. My predecessor has shown that a fresh set of eyes can really bring forward a lot of great thoughts into an operation that's ongoing and successful. Let's take it on and advance it some more. My broad range of managerial experience gives me a leg up in terms of the best qualified to run this office, and I ask you, please vote for me.
Thank you all. I would like to thank especially you for coming out this evening. I'd like to thank all the candidates for participating. I'd like to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank AAUW and PAC 8 for the filming and UNMLA for the venue, and the Hilltalkers for their assistance as well. So thank you all very much for coming.